So, thank you for joining me again today. I know you're all very excited to be here. Today, as I promised last time, I wish to talk about heroes. But I guess more than heroes, I want to talk about our leading character, our protagonist. Because obviously, every story, we follow them. We take that journey alongside with them. It's why some characters stick in our minds long after the movie's ended. And some characters just sort of, fade from memory. So, in order to really figure out why some characters stick with us and why others seem to just disappear into the back recesses of our mind, I want to break down a few things about really what makes a good protagonist. So, there's a few things that we really need to break down in order to know what that is. The first of which is, what exactly is the hero set out to do? What's the goal of both the project that they're in, and what is the goal of that individual? Be it success, revenge, riches, what have you. Can we root for them? Is this a person that we're going to like? Is this a person that, following alongside their journey, are they going to be an intolerable asshole and learn nothing? Are they going to be selfish and vengeful, or are they going to be violent, crazy? And obviously, no specific goal is what makes them a better or worse character. Really, what it comes down to is execution. And lastly, can your character exist outside the realms of their own reality? And this isn't to say, can Superman exist in the world of Brooklyn Nine-Nine? This means, can his character exist? If we took away their unique traits from their unique world, and we just took their personality and put them into another story, what would that character be like? And if that character doesn't have enough substance, then we know if that person begins to fall flat. So, as per last time, I have just a couple of, things that you can do in order to enjoy this alongside me. The first is, take your phone and turn it off. Pour yourself a nice drink. If you don't drink alcohol. And lastly, just enjoy. And if you have anything that you wish to debate me on or sort of spark some dialogue or interest, something piques your mind you don't quite agree with, feel free to go at it in the comments. I'm willing to debate anybody, and I actually enjoy talking about this sort of thing. It's a lot more entertaining to me than some might think. So without further ado, I'm going to break down what makes a good main character. And let's start with what I said we would. What is the hero set out to do? Or what is a proactive versus a reactive character?
Fly so high, I wonder why.
What has the hero set out to do? Now this takes a bunch of different forms. I know generally whenever I'm writing, I tend to make smaller goals. And this is because the stakes of the situation very much define our character. So if the antagonist in our movie is trying to destroy the universe, that's typically not something that we can wrap our heads around. Yeah, we can think about the idea, we can consider it and things like that. So when we look at characters like Thanos, who was the protagonist of Infinity War, we know his goal is to fix the universe. So we can kind of wrap our heads around it, but we can't fully get it. In Star Wars, the scale is much smaller, obviously, just on a numerical sense. But we can kind of get behind the idea of two factions, one good, one evil, trying to impose their mindset or will on the galaxy around them. In smaller, comic book or superhero movies, The goal is usually world devastation or reorganization, and we really start to begin to understand what the goal is of these characters and what they want and why they think that they alone can reshape the world to something that is a bit more manageable. But if we really pull that theme back, that ideology, to a small enough scale, then we start to see what I consider the best stakes. And that is, they're a little bit more relatable. There's something that the audience can really wrap their head around. If somebody tells you that the villain is going to destroy the universe, you say that's really bad, but we don't know about a universe full of life. We know about a world full of life. So anything bigger than our world starts to get a little lost. And that doesn't make them any less powerful, enjoyable, or anything like that. It's just to say that a smaller scale is something a lot more instantly relatable. So if I were to tell you that the local bully wants the main character's childhood crush to be his wife, and he's a suave, good-looking, rich guy, that's a lot easier to wrap your head around. We understand what it's like. Some of us, I don't really get what it's like, but we understand what it's like to see a character that can't be with someone. We can wrap our heads around that. We can wrap our heads around unrequited love, an individual that we don't like, or a goal that might seem so close yet still out of reach. These things we can really think about, and we can go to sleep and be like, yeah, I can feel that. So the smaller stakes for these scenes kind of makes for a more powerful story. So this kind of fits alongside ideology that I have whenever I write, or stories that I'm looking to entertain myself with, is what is the scope of whatever's happening. And if it's something really small and intertwined among the small core cast, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna like this. I'm gonna like the characters. Everything affects everyone. So the main character's journey and struggle, whatever they're setting out to do, is something that everybody near them could help in some way. This really also ties down to the character being proactive or reactive. So a reactive character in a critical examination is not very good, because the character doesn't need to exist, they just happen to exist. The character doesn't need to go out and fight the big bad, they happen to go out and fight the big bad. Situations aren't naturally occurring, they're more manufactured. So whenever the big bad is going to enact his evil plan, it just so happens that the main character is related to the big bad, or his brother is kidnapped by the big bad. So the main character wouldn't have done anything unless situations or forces pushed him into action. A literal call to adventure, if you will. And that makes, at least in my opinion, for a weaker story. We don't really need for the character to go anywhere, so we're only invested in this as far as this moment-to-moment situation is. And as soon as that character no longer needs to be there, the audience clocks out. Good examples of this are really, and I know a lot of you are going to be a little upset about this, but all of the Star Wars movies, all three of our main characters are extremely reactive. And this is, in my opinion, what bogs down what is otherwise the greatest concept in film, period. Why is Anakin going to become a Jedi? Well, somebody came to his home planet and said, hey, yo, you're going to be a Jedi now. Why is Luke going to be a Jedi? Well, somebody came to his hometown and said, you're going to be a Jedi now. Why is Rey going to be a Jedi? Can you guess? I'll give you 3 chances to guess why she becomes a Jedi. And a reactive character is predictable, they're boring, and we don't necessarily relate to them. And that's not to say that every character needs to be relatable. One of the greatest main characters in the past decade is somebody like Walter White. He's a fantastic main character. He's doing this for his family and things like that. And he's not reactive. He's very proactive as to why he's doing anything. He wants to take care of his family. He wants to be treated with some damn respect and dignity. He wants to find a way to beat his cancer. He wants to do that. We can list for days all the things he wants to do. We know who he is. We know why he fights. And that is what makes a proactive character. When they wake up before the show starts, we can figure out what this character wanted. We know what it is because they either tell us or there's clues throughout the story as to what kind of individual this person is. And that makes a way more powerful individual. We see it. We want it for them. We want them to win because they want to win. Harking back to what I said in the last video is, and what I'll definitely say in upcoming ones, is we care because they care. They care because the author cared. So there's so many layers of why we should care, why we're invested, and it makes for a far more compelling story, essentially. And yeah, the character doesn't necessarily have to succeed at whatever it is. And this isn't just a breakdown of good as in like just as good characters. It's just a breakdown of like good as in like critically explained good characters. So if the character, a good character, a well-written character, I should say, has finally met their goals and accomplished whatever they set out to do, awesome. That's great, cool. If they haven't, that's fine as well. Why haven't they managed to do that? So Walter White, he meets his goals, he does what he wants, but he does die at the end of the story. And if he had lived, fine. I'm okay with if he had to survive at the end of his journey. But as long as we build that up properly and we followed through and made sure all the characters that he interacted with kind of played their parts well enough, then that's something that I think everybody can get behind. And this will smoothly bring us into our next portion. And that is, can we root for them? Or is this character likable enough for us to want to follow? So can we root for them? This one's a little harder. So obviously a lot of what I say is going to end up being fully subjective. A lot of us can root for a character like Hannibal Lecter and be totally okay with this, whereas some of us are going to see Hannibal Lecter and be like, I can't wait for this douchebag to get us comeuppance. Some of us are going to see characters like Superman in the Man of Steel and Beyond series, and we're going to be like, oh, I can't wait for this character to save the day. Whereas some of us are going to say, man, I wonder what it'd be like to see him finally lose a fight truly. So this is more an execution thing. Any character can be done well, like Inglourious, the villain from Inglourious Bastards, Christoph Waltz's character. It escapes me at the moment, but while we can't root for a monster like him, we certainly do enjoy his presence on screen. So when I say, can we root for them, it's more, can we follow this main character's journey? Do we want to follow their journey? Is it fun? Does it take us on an epic quest? Do we learn something? Is the feeling, is the cathartic feeling that we get when they exact their vengeance rewarding? Has this journey been worthwhile? And upon reaching the destination, do we feel as though we've taken, do we feel like it's worth it? Whatever struggle that we've gone through along with our main character. And whether they're good, evil, or, a gray area individual, do we enjoy it? So one good example, in my opinion, comes to mind, and a character that really got me to start writing more fun instead of just deep, sour individuals is Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series. So he is a wisecracking explorer that's been around the world. He's had a pretty sordid life, and it's rough. And if we look at him as a whole, he's kind of a monster. He's just, as far as the story is concerned, he's just a simple, adventure-loving guy. But as far as the entirety of the games are concerned, he's murdered hundreds, potentially thousands of individuals, which makes him a bad person. But we can almost forget about that because of his endearing nature, his fun-loving charisma, and we can get behind the journey. And once we hit whatever destination each of those games set out to reach, we enjoy it, and we're happy that he's made it, we're happy that we got to experience it, and things like that. So, is the character someone that we can root behind? Have they been done well enough? Because every character has probably been done to death at this point. So it's just a matter of, is the character doing things that we as the audience can either relate to or enjoy? On the opposite side of that spectrum, in my opinion, and I guess it's just me harking on these two things a lot, and that's Superman from the Man of Steel movie and Justice League, and Rey from Star Wars, and their journeys we can't really root for them because they've been done to death and their execution isn't done all that well. So the journey that they go on is bog standard. The individuals that they go alongside with are nothing remarkable. Their interactions aren't anything great or very endearing. So we're just along for the ride. It's essentially the third roller coaster you get on. I feel like is probably a safe analogy here. When you go to an amusement park or a water park, the first ride you go on to hype yourself up, to get ready. And that's the Nathan Drake.
Hey, phrase it!
Stop. That's the Nathan Drake ride. That's the fun one. That's like, oh man, this is great, this is cool. But the ride number 2 is something that you want to keep that high going. That's your Deadpool 2. That's your good sequel movies. The Kung Fu Panda 2s of the world. The fun, energetic ride that doesn't necessarily match up to the hype of Ride 1. And it isn't quite what you're expecting it to all go out on, like the final ride of the park. But it's fun. It's definitely fun. But rides 3 and 4 are just, you want to kind of catch your breath. That's what Rey and Superman are, in my opinion. Those are characters that are, yeah, we're here. Let's see what this is about. But you're not going to remember the third ride you get on. You'll remember the first one, you'll remember the last one, but the third one is just so middling in an adventure that it just loses itself pretty quickly. And a character doesn't have to be a good person. One of my favorite characters from television is Archer. He's kind of a douchebag. He's a secret agent that always has something messed up to say. He's an alcoholic that only wants to go out and have sex, and he's a spy solely because it pays well and he thinks that it's good to be famous. And yes, he has been told many times that he should not be a famous spy, obviously he has ignored each of these. So, but we still enjoy him as a character because he's fun, he's endearing. In moments, he has his thoughtlessness where he cares about the individuals that he interacts with. He tries, and he doesn't ever overstay his welcome. And even though he is a fun, enjoyable character, he's not so unlikable in his bad moments that we can't be around him. Same with Nathan Drake. When he's going on these adventures, he's definitely doing some bad things, but he knows when to pull back so as to keep the audience on his side. And that's something to say of the writers behind the projects, where they say, okay, we know that Nathan's supposed to be the wise guy, but if he made cracks every 30 seconds, he'd start to agitate some people. Or if he, killed too many people in the cutscenes, which are the story canonical moments, that we're starting to lose his likability a little bit. Fun fact is that when you're playing the Uncharted series, apparently whenever you get shot at and the screen starts getting red, that's not actually him getting shot at, that's him running out of luck. Something that the creators have said is the way of saying, hey, Nathan's getting terrified, which is why the screen starts getting red and his breathing gets erratic. He's not actually getting shot at, so he's not recovering from gun wounds like in other shows. It's these bullets are going from whizzing by here to whizzing by here, and he's starting to get nervous. And when he actually takes that killing blow, that's a one bullet hitting his body. Doesn't matter where it hits. He dies because he's not super tough. Just a little fun fact. But, yeah, we can root for some characters because of their likability. They are done well enough. So even if we've seen it 100 times, we can say, you know what, this guy's fun. I like this guy. This is enjoyable. And whether we can root for them or not really comes down to my final point today, and that is, can this hero exist outside of the realm of their own reality? Or a better question is this a real character? So, I've seen a fair amount of television, film, video games, comics, and anime. And after witnessing all of these mediums, I did some YouTube stumbling, and I found one of my favorite videos, and that is What Makes a Hero Feel Real by a YouTuber named Supereypatchwolf. And in that, he does a brilliant dissection of why some characters come off as hollow, empty, cliche-ridden individuals, and some characters are these brilliant monoliths of why their specific medium has continued to exist. And I have two really shining examples of, the good and bad sides of this. What makes a character feel real, and what makes another one just kind of a hollow, pale individual that just, we're gonna forget. We're gonna forget quickly. And because I'd like to end things on a more positive note, we'll start with what makes that character not feel real. And the biggest and most blatant example I thought would be Superman, but he is himself supposed to be a god that can't be related to or understood. So if you dig back from his comic book days, it's easier to see why he's been done poorly so many times. It makes sense. The original creators were two young Jewish men who did not feel as though they had a place in the world. So,
me, I've got a different problem. feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, or someone could die. But you can take it, can't you, big man? What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am.
Superman being a character that nobody can fully understand or relate to makes sense. He's a god among men. There is no way to truly understand how it feels to eclipse everyone and everything above you. So the character that really sticks out in like a sore thumb in the action adventure genre as a hollow character would be Rey from the newest edition of Star Wars. And before I start, I don't hate Star Wars. I'm starting to realize I may not be as big a fan as I used to, but I don't hate Star Wars. I can still enjoy the games and the movies well enough. I don't dislike Daisy Ridley as an actress. I'm sure she's probably fine when she gets to perform in like other roles. But what really rubs me the wrong way is the fact that you'll probably hear this a lot. The Mary Sue. That is the super nice, just does everything, heroic all around, no faults, beats everybody sort of character. And this takes away from what I was talking about earlier, and that is the stakes. It doesn't matter how grand or small the stakes are, depending on the character that we're following, because in Rey's case, she's an unstoppable god. And I know that might sound a little weird, but there hasn't been anything that she's interacted with that she can't do fully on her own. She's an ace pilot, she's a great fighter, she's a survivalist, she's an expert explorer, she can find anyone, she can fight anything. There are no genuine shortcomings to her as an individual. She can just, anything that she comes into contact with, she can easily overwhelm. And it makes the audience say, well, we know how this one's going to end. And that isn't to say that's not the same for pretty much every action movie. In 99% of them, you'll walk into the theater and you know the main character is going to win. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't mind heroes winning. I think everybody likes to see good people winning. But what really detracts from that is a character who has zero chance of losing. In the John Wick series, we know Baba Yaga, Keanu Reeves' character, is both an unbeatable force of willpower and breathtaking.
You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking.
But why he wins is more than just his willpower. He does clever things. He's got a lot more tenacity. He takes hits better. He does certain things, and we can enjoy that. But we know that he's not unstoppable. He has been beaten down a few times, and if the villains were just a little bit smarter, he'd be dead quite a few times. Or if they were as callous as he is. He is extremely callous and evil. He will do illegal things, even as far as his underground world is concerned, if it means that he gets to exact his revenge. So, we know in the world that he's in, he can die at any time. And that without help, he can lose to certain individuals. Not everybody. He's still better than the vast majority of individuals in any one-on-one scenario, but he's usually not in one-on-one scenarios because the better the villain or more intelligent they are, the more they know, hey, if we go in here one-on-one, he's going to win. So they find ways to beat him. They overwhelm him whenever they can. So we know that Keanu Reeves, as tough or as talented as that killer John Wick may be, there's a limit to his abilities. And that's what makes following him a little bit more real. If we were to rip out John Wick from his assassin world lifestyle and place him into an entirely different realm, we know that he's resourceful. We know that he's hardworking, we know he's smart, and we know that he doesn't want to be bothered if the situation can handle it. So if he doesn't have to fight, we know he's going to avoid the fight. If he has to fight, we know he's going to do as much as he can to win. That's what makes him feel real. Whereas Rey, if we take her out of her specific, if we take her out of Star Wars and put her in any other, story, movie, game, genre, what have you, we just, without her powers, she isn't much. There's not much to her as an individual. As far as goals go, she's a very reactionary character. So we know that unless something is told or affects her personally, she's not going to lift a finger to do anything about anything. She doesn't have any long-standing goals that she's like, all right, I want to do this. Keanu Reeves wants to be left alone. Leave him alone, and he's just going to live a normal, boring life with a dog. And the best example that I can think of this, and no, it is not John Wick, as fun as that character is, it is, this one's great. It's from Gravity Falls. The main character is Dipper. He's a very curious child who just wants to explore the mysteries happening around the town that he's living in with his grunkle Stan. And it's actually kind of nice to see such a powerless character doing more. So he's not very strong, he's just a kid, so we know he can't just dominate every situation. I guess he's a little reminiscent of Huey Freeman from the Boondocks, in that he's just a child who's kind of gifted with a great deal of knowledge and curiosity and wanting to proactively do something about the area that he's in. But being that he's still a kid, he does have to seek assistance, advice from others wiser, stronger than himself. There's so many limitations in play for that character that what really comes down is how can they figure their way out of that scenario. And I really like the idea of the intelligent main character. And I know some people might wonder why I would exclude Batman. Well, Batman in a lot of iterations has been kind of an unstoppable god. I know he's human and he has limitations, but in every storyline that he's in, at least as far as the mainstream goes, he can easily watch everything without any sort of assistance from others, no matter how you want to paint it. But Dipper has lost several instances. He does actually go up against a literal god, and he's at odds as far as what he can do and what he wants to do. He has to battle these things. They have to kind of juggle his curiosity with his need to make sure that his family doesn't come into harm's way. His desire to, fall in love with somebody versus his knowledge of knowing what is and is not right to do. So, because of these things, if I were to put him in any situation, or even my favorite character of all time, which I should probably have broken down a little bit more, SpiderMan, which a lot more of you may know, I know what these characters are going to do. I know someone like Spider-Man, for instance, is going to make sure, let's say he was in the world of The Walking Dead. He's in a zombie apocalypse. We know he's still going to be a snarky, smart, young guy that always has to have fun and, jokes around a lot and is just an overall goofball. But we also know that he's brilliant. We know that he's going to take his time. He's going to spend the first 100 days of this apocalypse studying different patterns and things like that. He's going to find out if a cure is feasible. We know that he is going to do the best that he can to try and beat the plague instead of going to war with individuals. We also know that because of his overwhelming desire to help people or make them feel, safe and happy, that he's going to he's going to make sure that morale is in a better place. And because of how these characters are written and because of how they're portrayed, we know how these characters are going to be in different scenarios, in different stories, and things like that. And this is what helps us know what makes a character feel real. This is what allows us to enjoy the journey that these individuals are taking. This is what really helps us decide if we want to root for certain individuals. This is what makes a character feel worthwhile, worth watching, and things like that. This is what allows us to know if a character is truly a good character. So, yeah, that's my little diatribe on what makes a good or a bad character. Thank you again for watching. Just so you don't forget, you can turn on your cell phones and answer your literal calls to adventure, or maybe you can keep your cell phones off. Decide that journey for yourself. So on you. I know I'm gonna do. So again, thank you for watching. I hope this, as usual, has been a little insightful. Maybe you've taken something away with this, whether you're a writer or just a casual audience goer. Ultimately, all of this is truly subjective. You can decide for yourself if you like certain individuals' characters, story styles, writings, and things like that. But I think these are core things that really help make a more solid character that will stick with you, so that you know from pretty early on if this is going to be an individual that you're going to enjoy. And I guess this brings me to what I'd like to talk about next time. And so this is really a fun one for me. I guess this one's going to be a lot of clip viewing for the next one, and that is what makes a good fight scene. So there are like a trillion factors that goes into it, and we're gonna really break down good versus bad choreography and things like that. But regardless, everybody enjoy yourselves, your drinks and things like that. Don't get too drunk. Make sure you drink water. It's 101. I'll remind you every time, hopefully. And
So that's how you gonna end your day, nigga? Yeah. Your first drop? Yes. Your first
one of these days, I'll learn.
Yeah. Your first demoter?
Oh wait, no, I don't have work tomorrow.
Nigga,
Answering that call to adventure. Who the fuck wants to party?